This podcast does not contain spoilers.
Oh, by the way, the robots go to the charging stations, and that's when the humans can go out and play and blah, blah. It's like, okay, if they never said anything like that, you would have absolutely no idea what's going on.
Welcome to Microsodes. Hello and welcome to Microsodes, a podcast where we review movies in less time than it takes to watch them from two different perspectives.
Oh, yeah.
I'm Ashley, the movie novice, which means that I haven't seen a lot of movies.
And I'm Bobby, the resident cinephile here at Microsodes. And what that means is I've seen a lot of movies. It doesn't mean that I'm an expert, but I do have some expertise in a couple of different films. But first,
this podcast could be sponsored by Health Aid Kombucha. I really enjoy kombucha, and I drink Health Aid Kombucha because I can get it in a 6-pack at Costco. So I'll read a 5-star review from another 5-star customer. This is by Benicia. Great product. I've only been drinking for a week, and there is progress. I'm very pleased with this product. End of review.
nice. Listen, I can attest that she drinks kombuchas every single day. This is definitely by far her favorite brand.
Yes, I really like the Pink Lady Apple. That's my favorite flavor.
There you go.
I haven't noticed anything specifically from digestion. I just like the taste of it.
I don't think you have to say that, but that's okay.
Oh, well, because these reviews said it.
Oh, okay. Is there another review coming up?
There's one. Another one. By Essence.
Okay.
Love this product! Exclamation point. Simple, sweet, to the point.
Just like your apple.
Just
drink.
like Pink Lady Apple.
Just like Pink Lady Apple. Smooth, crisp, and to the point.
Exactly.
And we're back. And here are the movie details for today's feature film.
Nice.
The movie name is The Electric State. Its release date was March 14th of 2025. And over the weekend, it was ranked number 1 on Netflix.
Yes. Number 1 in movies on Netflix.
That's right.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
The genre is sci-fi and adventure. It has a runtime of 2 hours and 8 minutes.
Oh, so that is the longest now. That was even longer than Fall Guy. Wasn't Fall Guy 206?
Could have been. It's rated PG-13. This is a Netflix original. There's no other platform currently that you can watch it on. If it releases later on, we'll try to amend this, but currently the only platform you can watch it on is Netflix. It was distributed also by Netflix, and the directors are Anthony and Joe Russo. Do you know who those guys are?
I have no clue.
All right. They're called the Russo Brothers because usually they direct things together. They've directed Captain America, the Winter Soldier, and Captain America, Civil War.
Fun.
Avengers Infinity War and Avengers Endgame. And The Gray Man, which was also a Netflix original starring Ryan Gosling. But now, on to watching the preview, and then we'll give you the synopsis.
I'll meet you on the other side.
See you on the other side. Wow. What'd you think?
I think it looked incredibly epic. It definitely looked intense.
Oh, yeah.
Really serious. I think it will be something about like war and devastation, but also coming out on the other side and overcoming obstacles.
Ooh, maybe like a Last of Us.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, kind of like post-apocalyptic.
That makes sense.
Otherwise, there's some robots and there are humans. And I think Millie Bobby Brown was the one who narrated the trailer. So I don't know if that was part of the movie or if it was just like a trailer narration.
Okay.
But anyway, it was very confusing, and I don't know if I will have any idea what it's about, to be honest. It was very epic. The music was epic. It was an old song. Not old, but like a past song that was kind of like redone in a weird way, in like a remix-ish version.
Yeah, it reminds me because Netflix kind of tends to do this with different movies. They take songs, slow it down, and kind of stretch it out over their previews.
Interesting.
Oh, yeah. You ready for the synopsis?
Oh, yes, I'm definitely ready for the synopsis.
An orphaned teen
Mm-hmm.
hits the road with a mysterious robot to find her long-lost brother, teaming up with a smuggler and his wisecracking sidekick.
That's it?
I'm going to read it one more time.
Okay.
An orphaned teen hits the road with a mysterious robot to find her long-lost brother, teaming up with a smuggler and his wisecracking sidekick. End of synopsis.
Huh. I think it's just as detailed as what I was thinking, except I didn't know about a brother or anything like that.
Yeah, I'm not 100% sure.
Or a
but
sidekick, I guess. Who knows? I'm just as confused as after watching the trailer, I guess.
it could be anyone or anything.
Well, are you excited to watch the movie now?
Absolutely. Are you?
I was born ready.
Shoot. Okay. Well, let's turn it on.
And we'll see you
After the show.
What a show.
Oh, man.
That was
That
a
one
memorable
was-
one.
Yeah, it was interesting.
It was definitely interesting.
There's a lot to talk about. Why
There's
don't
a
you
lot
dive
going
in?
on. I'll dive into story.
Absolutely.
I gave it a 2.5.
Okay, nice.
And I felt that the story was very convoluted.
Okay.
There were a lot of different plot lines or storylines going on throughout the entire movie.
Oh, yeah.
I feel like we were always learning something new about an obstacle or something in the way or something that we didn't even need to know
Yeah, I could see that.
the
Yep.
whole time.
Mhm.
I did like that the two main characters, and this is a spoiler, but not like it doesn't really matter. I like that they did not have a romantic connection.
Oh, okay.
I liked that there wasn't any like romance. It was literally just a movie about like people going on a journey to do something rather
Right.
than like that and a romance.
You
So
know
I
what?
really liked that there wasn't a romance.
I had never thought about that. That's a great point. I really it didn't add anything or take anything away from the story. But that's a great point.
Yeah, and I was thinking about it during the movie, and then as I was writing this in my notes, I realized, oh, I think she was supposed to be in high school, so it would have been very awkward if they did. And
I'm
I didn't
sure you're
realize until
probably
after
right.
I wrote it, and I was like, oh,
You're probably right, but I mean, how many movies have we seen with kids that are in high school that are like 18,
Right.
that really are 33,
exactly.
and then they go off on a different kind of adventure? But in all honesty, that's a great point. I had not thought about that at all.
Yeah. I guess another part of the story, I thought, I know, because you mentioned this while we were watching the movie. The
Mhm.
movie is set in the year 1994.
Correct.
Now, I wrote down that I think they did this. I'm just going to read my notes because it'll be a little bit easier.
Okay.
Okay, so I wrote, I think they did this because it wanted, or I guess they wanted to convey that technology had grown in a different way than it actually did in like real life. For example, there's no social media, internet is barely a thing, and people don't really have cell phones. So it made me feel like society in this movie improved technology in a less social way and more in an individualized, like me type of way. While like in real life, we have the internet and social media. And even though there's a lot of technological advancements in real life, or Yeah, in real life, it's more social oriented, like socializing with people in a technology rather than isolating yourself with technology.
Okay.
Um, and then during the movie, I thought the main point of the movie was no good deed goes unpunished. But then by the end, I realized it was be real and be a human and do human things together with other humans. And that was my review for Story.
Well, there you go.
Mm-hmm.
Well done. I wasn't that far off from you.
Mm-hmm.
I rated the story as a 2.3. I didn't realize, after doing a little bit of research, I didn't realize that this movie is based upon a graphic novel.
It is?
I know.
I had no idea either.
Yeah, so I had to do a little bit of research on the writing, directing, where they came up with this story, and it came from a graphic novel.
Okay.
The guy's name is Simon Stålenhag,
Mm-hmm.
and he hails from Germany. And he has a bunch of short stories and books about technology and government
Mm-hmm.
that he created into what they try to use this to adapt into their story. Reading a little bit of the reviews. Now, I apologize to anybody that's out there that's read either this graphic novel or these books. If I'm overstepping, please write in and let me know. It seemed like, based upon the synopsis that I got of all the other ones that he'd written, it seems like they took almost a hodgepodge. They picked and pulled from all of his different books and kind of jammed this story together.
Oh, like they picked their favorite pieces of all the different stories to create one story within this like world that he created in general?
Exactly.
Okay.
And so even if you go and look at his cover art and you look at those kinds of things, because he's also, I guess, a very talented artist as well.
Right.
When you look at all the covers of his books, it's all a bunch of sad robots, or like it kind of almost looks like a post-apocalyptic world. I was going to give the story a 1 because of everything that you were talking about, not only with the plot holes, but it just kind of seemed like very cookie cutter, like, oh, here's one thing. Let's go to the next thing. Let's go to the next thing. Now let's cut back. Let somebody tell you what's going on, because the audience might be completely like, I have no idea what's happening.
Mm-hmm.
But finding out that it came from that graphic novel and those books, I was like, okay, maybe the storyline overall, they didn't get an opportunity to sit with the person and really flesh out a real story.
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of where I came up with it, and that's how I landed on it. Because it just seemed like there was a lot there, but they had to almost create this whole thing for everyone to understand in the first 15 minutes, because the rest of the story wouldn't make any sense if it didn't.
Right. Okay.
So that's where I came up with the 2.3.
Nice.
Yeah. I'm going to go into acting, which I rated as a 2.4. The only reason why I rated it that high was because of Millie Bobby Brown. I don't know what happened. There is a cast in this that the list goes on and on and on and on, with so many incredibly talented actors and actresses and people that have like little tiny, side characters and things that, I mean,
well-known names.
Yeah, not to throw anything out there, because I think it's in the preview.
Mm-hmm.
But Mr. Peanut is voiced by Woody Harrelson. I had no idea that's who that was, and it's like, I mean, did it take away from anything? No. Did it add to anything? I don't think so.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought she did a really, really good job of interacting with the almost basically like a green screen character, because it was her by herself in a lot of those different kinds of situations. So I thought she did an incredible job. And then I don't want to say anything bad about Chris Pratt, because I think he's been one of my favorite actors since he was on Parks and Rec.
Mm-hmm.
He's been in a ton of great things, but it just kind of seems like they cast him to play, and because the Russo brothers, and I'll get back into it in a minute when we go into the directing portion of it, but they made him be Star-Lord, but without any of the powers. He was just kind
What
of
is Star-Lord?
It's one of the guys from Guardians of the Galaxy.
Yes.
That was part of the Avengers. It's just kind of like they typecast him into a goofball, renegade, improvisational, sad, redemptive person. It's like, dude, you can't do that in every single role that you play. And I'm not trying to pick on him, but his character in Jurassic Park, his character is Star-Lord.
Mm-hmm.
This, even when he's in Parks and Rec, it's like, I don't know. I think he's done a couple things on Amazon Prime and that kind of stuff. It's the same thing over and over and over again. And I don't want to discredit him because I know it takes a lot of patience and perseverance to get to that point. But for me, it was just, he's playing the same character that I've seen him play 100 times. And really, he actually didn't add anything into this story. It was almost like he was a detriment. They just kind of needed him to get to places.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, it's kind of just a big waste for them. Stanley Tucci, great actor. I thought, okay, what's the point? And then the other guy, and I wrote down his name because if you've ever seen Breaking Bad, he's Gus Fring. His name is Giancarlo Esposito. He's the one that played the one of the characters that was in the robot that was a negative person. But it was just his face. It wasn't actually him.
Was that the guy sitting at the desk?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
And so it's like you have all these huge names that you could have done so much with. And it seems like you put them into a box and kind of package it up as something that was, you know, as the audience, you could give or take.
Yeah.
So I'm sorry, I kind of went off on a little bit of a rant there, but that's what I thought about it, at least.
Yeah, and that reminds me kind of when you were talking about Chris Pratt, it reminds me of Ryan Reynolds.
Yeah.
Like that Deadpool character, he's like a less intense version of Deadpool in a ton of his movies.
Exactly.
It's just like a more realistic version, but otherwise it's the same person.
I could not agree with you more. That I know I've brought it up before, so I didn't want to bring it up again, but I could not agree with you more. It's just they kind of typecast you because it's successful.
Yeah.
But at a certain point in time, it just like the trick or whatever it is kind of runs its course.
Yeah, or as you get older, you change. Like you might be a different person, a different actor. Like you're not that 26-year-old funny guy anymore.
Yeah, you're not Brad Pitt in Legends of the Fall anymore. You're Brad Pitt in Bullet Train.
Yeah, that. I haven't seen either of those.
Okay.
But I like it.
There you go.
I was thinking he wasn't Andy from Parks and Rec anymore.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But, okay. So for acting, I gave it a 3.
Okay.
I said the acting was decent. I also said since the cast consisted of less than 10 people for the most part.
Okay.
And they were rarely in the same place at once. It felt like they were all filming their own movie individually, and they weren't like reacting with one another. They were kind of just reacting based on how they thought another actor was reading the scene. It's like, I don't even know if they knew how these people were even acting in the scene. Like, oh, well, we only need you to read your lines. And of course, they're going to mix them with the other actor, but sometimes when people do voiceovers or they're on the phone, they just pretend what the other actor is saying. They don't actually hear them say it, and that's kind of what it felt like to me.
I gotcha. I mean, that makes total sense because later on, you know, I bring up pretty much the same points that you're bringing up, so it makes a ton of sense what you're saying.
Yeah, and I also wrote Millie Bobby Brown is a great actress, but to me this character felt beneath her. It just It just felt like it wasn't up to, especially after seeing Damsel.
Yeah.
I guess I shouldn't go into too much detail, but it was very different than that role.
Right.
And this one seemed just super boring.
I wouldn't say it's super boring, but I understand where you're coming from.
Yeah.
Because when you see those things, especially in close proximity to one another, you see how well she almost acts by herself, because in Damsel, for a lot of the time, she's by
alone.
herself.
Yeah.
And for this, even though she has a companion, but it isn't real how well she acts by herself.
Mm-hmm.
I think those are kind of two in the same character, just in different movies.
Yeah.
So one you liked. Maybe it's because you liked one better than you liked the other one.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it's kind of cool to see someone take on challenges and succeed.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of what she acts in, she's alone.
Yeah.
Unless it just happened to be because, like, it was over COVID. I know this one it's 5 years after COVID, but, like...
Mm-hmm. No, I
don't know.
I completely agree with you. It definitely seemed like that with a lot of the scenes. It almost seemed like you said, they're filming in different areas.
Yeah, it just felt like everyone was a little disconnected, and they weren't really working together on the same page.
Right.
And then I think Chris Pratt is also a good actor, but like you said, it was kind of typecast. And I haven't seen any of the movies that you were talking about before that he was in that are similar to this, like Guardians of the Galaxy or anything. But I remember seeing different parts of it, and he's walking with this like motley crew that just reminds me of Guardians of the Galaxy, like those movie posters or movie trailers. And so I can see exactly what you mean, because it just seems like he's back again in a different Guardians of the Galaxy movie. Even though I've never seen it, it just like I've seen the trailer and stuff, and it just kind of had that visual aspect of that.
Absolutely.
I guess this might not be acting, this is probably more writing or story, but I think the parts that were supposed to feel emotional, whether they were sad or happy or worried or touching, I just felt numb toward any of the characters because they didn't seem that likable to me. They were fine. I wasn't like rooting for anyone. Were you?
I think the only person that I was rooting to succeed was this kid that was going to die. No, I'm kidding. No, there wasn't a whole lot of redemptive qualities in any of their stories.
It wasn't like they were bad, but they weren't like particularly great either.
Yeah, there's a lot in the movie that I think, which either it was written in or it was improvisation, but they don't show. Did they show like Chris Pratt with the robot or anything?
Kind of.
So even with that story, I could tell that whole story was made up. And it was just like, it felt very awkward.
Yeah.
Listen to a story that's made up by someone who doesn't even believe what they're saying.
Yes.
It's like listening to a liar lie about something that they have no, like, it doesn't even matter if they're lying or not.
Right.
They're just going to tell you a lie. And you're like, do you even believe that? Not really.
Right. And that's also what I wrote. I said, Chris Pratt is a good actor, but it felt like he was reading lines. And it felt like he got the part over the weekend and had to start filming on Monday.
That's a pretty good one. I hadn't thought about that, but yeah, that makes sense.
It just felt like he wasn't actually originally cast in the role, and they're like, no, we need someone because the first person dropped out or they got sick or something. Hey, can we get you to like just do this? It's easy.
Yeah.
You've been this character a million times. Just do that.
Yeah.
And it's like he didn't really believe himself as the character.
Right.
So how's the audience supposed to believe him as a character?
Yeah, I agree. I'll leave it up to you.
Okay. For writing a dialogue, I gave it a 1.5.
Yeah, pretty close to what I put down, so I'm
Okay.
excited to hear what you have to say.
I wrote, writing was peculiar. I feel like the jokes that they had weren't funny. Also, I thought there was an odd juxtaposition between the technological explanations and the writing that was out of control and juvenile and
Yeah, to say the least.
just very unlike those explanations. So I'll give you a couple examples.
Okay.
One of the technological explanations is he called his breakthrough a neurocaster, a device that linked the human mind to mechanized drone bodies. Humans were finally able to fight fire with mechanized fire, and within weeks, the war was over. So that explanation was juxtaposed against this one. Our world is a tire fire floating on an ocean of piss. I'm going to give you one more thing. But in here, she's all soft hugs and stuffed peppers. Soft hugs and stuffed peppers? And then there's a neurocaster that blends the mechanisms of robotic technological advances with the, I don't know, I can't think of anything else. But it just seemed very odd to be paired in the same movie. Like, did the same person write those two things?
I don't know. I have absolutely no clue.
Anyway, I'm done with my writing. That's all I wanted to say.
Oh, I'm glad, because the only thing that I was going to say was I gave it a 1.0 because I thought the same exact thing. I said, I'm not sure if someone chat GPT'd all of the lines, if they took some of the stuff from the graphic novels, or they just kind of cut people loose and were like, this is a general idea of what we want you to say in this scene.
Right.
And you guys can just kind of like workshop it.
Wing it.
Yeah. But then there was also other lines where they had to constantly explain what was going on.
Yes.
Because you would have absolutely no idea what's happening. Oh, by the way, the robots go to, I don't know, this is all made up, so it's not in the movie at all. The robots go to the charging stations, and that's when the humans can go out and play and blah, blah. And it's like, okay, if they never said anything like that, you would have absolutely no idea what's going on. And they had to consistently do it because the other writing and the other scenes that they were directing and developing were things that people had no idea what was happening.
Right. Oh, wait, how so? Sorry, I went with awful, and yours was a lot more complicated.
I don't want to give away any portion of the story, but there's Millie Bobby Brown's character has to live with someone that she isn't too fond of. I'll just leave it at that because I don't think that gives away any kind of plot points.
Mm-hmm.
Then that person who she's not too fond of bursts into her room yelling about her with an ankle bracelet.
Yeah.
That never came up again.
You're right.
And I still, like, I don't know why they keep writing things in. And even that person said, well, if you do X, Y, and Z, I will get more money. So you should do X, Y, and Z. And it's like, well, how would anyone even know what in the world is happening?
Right.
In any of these things? I don't think I gave that much of the plot away,
you're fine.
But it was consistently things like that where you would just, the characters would have to explain to the audience through their dialogue what was happening in the movie. And it's just like, okay, I guess we're along for this ride. We paused it multiple times.
Yeah.
You kept looking up at the screen. How much longer is it
Yeah.
this?
Yeah, I was like, this is so long.
Yeah.
It felt very tedious.
The writing and the dialogue just put a lot of plot holes into the movie that didn't necessarily need to be there.
Mm-hmm.
And then, at the end of the movie, they leave us with this weird scene where people are talking to each other about like human robot love. And that was very odd. I just don't understand why you would even need to include that.
Mm-hmm.
And if we didn't go down to 1, I would have given this a 0.01. I couldn't wrap my mind around it.
Yeah, I said Chris Pratt's character in love with his robot friend. Even if it was supposed to be a joke, it wasn't funny.
No, it felt really flat.
So awkward. And
yeah.
There were jokes throughout the script that you could tell because I think they left a pause for laughter, and they just all fell flat. They were awful.
Well, I think a lot of it because they were doing.
I just not understand them.
No. I think a lot of times during that movie, because they were shooting it with CGI, there wasn't another actor there to either play back off of it.
So again, even the CGIs were involved separately. So everyone was literally filming their own movie.
Pretty much.
I mean, that's why everything felt so disconnected. That's probably what it was.
Yeah. I mean, I agree with you 1,000%. All right. I'm going to head into directing if that's all right with you.
Go right ahead.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
So for directing, I gave it a 3. The reason for that is the Russo brothers I've seen a lot of their movies that I brought up at the very beginning. For those of you who might not have listened to it, they did Captain America, The Winter Soldier, and Captain America Civil War, Avengers Infinity War and Endgame, and The Gray Man. And so a lot of what you see in this movie is reflective of those movies, where I'm not going to say every single one, but most of the movies I just referenced, they have kind of a dark overtone to the entire story. It has a lot of gray, a lot of sadness, just kind of a dingy feeling. There isn't anything great about those things because, in the Captain America movies, he's trying to deal with what's going on in his life. In the Avengers movies, they have to deal with the entirety of the world. And the Gray Man, he's trying to deal with somebody else's, like this little girl who kind of makes a huge impact on his life. Mm-hmm. So I felt like this movie was really good for them to sign on as directors because they kind of know what their audience expects out of them. It's almost like an M. Night Shyamalan kind of feel.
For the Russo Brothers?
Yeah, they have like this grainy, dark... There's something that might happen just right behind the corner. And it just, they are really good at what they do. Mm-hmm. And so I thought that depending upon, because I didn't get to see the script or anything else like that, I don't know what Netflix's vision was for this movie, or what the gentleman who, did the graphic novels what his vision for the movie was. But based upon what they do, I think it reflects them very well. I didn't think it was the best directed movie I'd ever seen. I think a lot of the scenes were very disjointed, kind of like what you're talking about. Mm. But I usually will cut people a little bit of slack if I've seen something they've done before and it's kind of the same way. Because if I've seen it, a studio has seen it, and somebody who's writing the checks have seen it, that must be what they're aiming for.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's kind of, and it just really reminded me, you hit the nail on the head. It reminded me of Guardians of the Galaxy. And they even got Chris Pratt back, and his buddy Herm reminds me of Rocket Raccoon, and like all these kinds of like things. Mm-hmm. It was just like, oh, well, you basically got the Guardians of the Galaxy, but an Earth version set in 1994 when we didn't have robots.
Right. Yeah.
So it's a little bit different, but I can't knock them for doing what they do very well. Mm-hmm. So that's where I came out.
Nice. For direction, I gave it a 2. So I guess I could say I wasn't a huge fan of the direction. It seemed, again, even though I wrote this in acting and probably in writing, it just felt, well, maybe not in writing. Anyway, even though I wrote this in acting, I still feel like since the cast consisted of less than 10 people and all of them filmed it separately, it just felt disjointed. Like, isn't that something? Is that something that they've done in other movies too?
I think in a lot of the movies that the Russo brothers have directed,
it's a lot of CGI characters.
Other than The Gray Man, all the other movies that I'm talking about have Iron Man, who's a CGI character, the Winter Soldier, and all those different things from Civil War. There is a lot of green screen CGI acting. There's also a lot of real practical effects. Mm-hmm. But I would say it leans more heavily into the CGI stuff when you have superheroes like fighting and doing those kinds of things.
Oh, right. Okay. That makes sense. So, and the backgrounds, like, it just felt like a lot of it, they were in CGI land.
And I think that's the reason why I said I didn't ding them for that, because if you've ever seen their movies, mm-hmm. other than The Gray Man, which I referenced, The Gray Man was more practical effects. It wasn't a ton of CGI like the other Infinity Wars, Avengers, Captain America. Those kinds of movies are. Mm-hmm. So that's the only reason why that's the reason why I brought it up for me. And so if you're saying they're good at CGI, then yeah, they're kind of their wheelhouse.
That makes a lot of sense. Yeah, after seeing the trailer too, that really highlighted the Russo brothers and said like all of the different names of those movies that you mentioned earlier.
Right.
So maybe it's, I don't know, a thing. Well, I guess it is a thing. We just talked about that. Anyway, I also thought that the music did not match any of the actions. I wrote that it felt like the music they used was something from Pirates of the Caribbean or Lord of the Rings, but for a sitcom. And I know it wasn't a sitcom, but
Right.
it felt, and that's where I see the trailer again, like thinking about the trailer. It seemed so epic, like a serious film, like something very gritty and like powerful. And then watching it, it just felt kind of like something that was supposed to be comedic with no real emotional backstory. And I know that I'm getting into other things, but the music used just felt like it was for something that was a lot more meaningful or like a more powerful movie.
Well, I think now you're delving into something else that people probably feel all the time, is that a lot of times when you see a movie trailer nowadays, they want you to feel that kind of hook.
Yes.
Oh, it's going to be epic. It's going to be this. It's going to be this giant tale and all these different things.
Yes.
And I think that that's a lot of what the Russo brothers do.
Right.
But I think I agree with you 100%. It missed the mark in this because there was just, maybe it was because of the cast or the writing or the story overall. It was just a big swing and a miss. It didn't feel that way.
Yeah. Yeah, it just felt like I understand trailers and marketing because I've worked in marketing forever.
Right.
So it just feels like I understand that you want to use something epic to make people see it. Mm-hmm. And maybe at the credits or maybe in the beginning, you can have two epic songs.
Right.
But throughout the movie, it just made the movie feel a lot less exciting because the music was so much more exciting. Music makes people feel something in their body, whether
Right.
it's good, bad, happy, sad, angry, whatever. It was like our bodies were feeling that physiological response to music, but then as we're watching the movie, we're like, why? This is very confusing.
Yeah.
Why am I feeling so interested in this movie, but I really like it, according to my brain, I don't care at all about these characters.
Right. I think that the music kind of overshadowed the scenes that they were in.
Yeah, I think the music was really good. It was very epic. It was very like cinematic, but it just made the movie feel worse. I feel like they should have just matched the music, because when the music is so good,
Yeah.
it makes a movie feel like it's worse than it actually is if it doesn't match the level of intensity as the music that is behind it. Like
Right.
Fall Guy, they used the best music, but the movie was so good. So it really added to every scene. Like the music in Fall Guy matched what was going on.
Right.
So I think this one, like
It's
the
kind
music,
of overshadowed one or the other. It should have been
It
a little
needs
bit
to
more
be
toned
even.
down in some places and not as an epic. I get you.
So our last category is visuals.
Oh, yeah.
I gave
Your
it
fave.
my fave. Yes, I gave it a 2.
Okay.
I thought the robots were incredibly creepy. I wrote that several times in my notes while we were watching the movie.
Yeah.
I didn't like how all of the robots were different. It was like a different type of version for each robot. One robot might look like the guy that stands on the outside of Bob's Burgers,
You're right.
but then another one looks like, I don't know, Coco's grandma.
Yeah, that's what they were supposed to look like.
It was so odd. Like,
It was very distracting. Is that what you're saying?
well, why do all the robots look different?
Because
Wouldn't
they
that
were all
cost-
supposed to doing different jobs.
Yeah, but wouldn't that cost different? Like, why wouldn't they be made out of the same materials?
They are.
Everyone used, no, I mean, some of them definitely had silicone if they were like supposed to be that type of robot in real life, because those were real life people in that scene. So if they were actually supposed to be looking like that, it was very creepy.
Okay. But you know that that's the reason why they had so many different looking robots.
Yeah.
Was because they all did different jobs.
Right.
Okay.
But
just
it
didn't
doesn't
know.
matter. Like, they still should be made out of the same materials. Shouldn't they all kind of look similar? Like, what was that guy?
Well, they've been making these robots since 1977, since the movie was made in 1994.
Oh, right, exactly. But like, what about the guy that had the puppet show in his face? That one. What was he doing?
You've really blown the whole plot apart with that, without that guy.
What?
No, I was joking
okay,
around
I was
because
like,
nothing.
oh my
yeah,
gosh.
no.
Okay,
I was just trying to joke around.
Okay, cool. Well, that one was very creepy.
He's like a Coney Island robot, I guess.
But like, yeah, because it looked like one of those genie or not genie, the psychic in the box.
Yeah,
yeah,
like one of those things that you go and you get your
tarot read.
your
hand palm reading.
Palm reading inside of a machine.
Yeah. It just felt odd that they were all so different. I didn't like that they were all different. Even though it sucks, like, why can't they be all different? It just felt odd.
So if they were all different and did different jobs, but they looked the same material-wise, so just say that it was all alloy, but they also had, like, different things, because, like, the pizza maker and, like, that kind of stuff, you'd have been okay with that?
You know what? I don't know. I just think it was very creepy. It just reminds.
There's a lot of weird ones in there too.
Yeah, maybe it has nothing to do with that, but it's like, I don't know if I have an issue with clowns, but if someone had an issue with clowns, that was kind of like how I felt about the real CGI ones. The ones that looked like metal, like her friend that she walked around with.
Yeah,
Cosmo. That one was fine. And the one that he had with the helmet. That one seemed fine.
Herm.
Yeah. But the ones, like the Wall-E type ones, those ones are fine.
Okay.
But the ones that, like, I don't know, that tried looking like human people were very odd. I didn't like the way the peanut, like, talked. It was so strange for me.
Okay.
It may just be an Ashley thing, like a weird, I don't like the word moist. You know, I mean, I don't have a problem with that, but like some people do.
She does. She also doesn't like that word. I love it.
Oh, and also the goodbye hug was 200% longer than it needed to be. That's what I wrote.
Okay, nice. I did a 2.5 on visuals. The reason why I said it is because I've said this multiple times in our previous episodes. I'm not a huge fan of CGI. I love practical effects. And so the CGI, seeing it the entire time, like A is alluded to previously, or Ashley is alluded to previously in this episode, it just seemed so incredibly disjointed. I don't know if they were filming in a sound studio, or if they were filming on location or anything else like that. It just felt really weird. It felt like they were all away from each other, just in front of a green screen. And I will say that once I saw that the Neuralink things look like whistles, I couldn't unsee it. It just looked like giant whistles that they were wearing.
That's exactly what they look like. You know what what I thought? It looked like those Black Plague masks.
Yeah, it could look like that as well. The reason why I gave it a higher score than what I wanted to was I thought that the CGI that they did wasn't as over the top as it could have been. There could have been like a gazillion like crazy things that were going on, and it seemed like they kind of toned it back. They tried to make it, for me, it just reminded me of this movie Robots. If you've ever seen it, it's a Disney movie. They kind of all reminded me of that. Like
Disney movie?
Yeah.
I want to see that.
I think it's either Disney or Dream. Well, I guess Disney owned DreamWorks now, but yeah, it's a movie from way back in the day, and it's like this whole group of robots that like live in this community, and they do all these things, and they live their regular lives, and that's kind of what it reminded me of. So maybe I have a little bit of nostalgic feeling there, and that's the reason why I rated it a little bit higher. But there was definitely some good practical effects that were in there, some nice landscape shots, but overall, the CGI it always detracts me from the actual story.
I agree. I think there were a lot where you could easily tell they were in front of a green screen. And
Yeah.
when you see those, it just takes you out of it. It's like you can see in the foreground and then also like a little bit behind them that you can tell are like actual set design, or it's actual set design. And then you can easily tell when it's a completely different color, completely different lighting, the green screens. And then you're like, oh, well, now I'm out of it.
Yeah.
But
I completely agree.
so for my overall score,
Here we go.
I rated it a 2.2.
Nice.
I think if you see it, I don't know. I think maybe I'd say watch it during the day, like on a Sunday. I don't know if it was worth like 2.5 hours or 2 hours of someone's life at night. Like if you're waiting for a really good like Friday, Saturday night movie. I don't know if that's the one I'd recommend.
Yeah.
What about you?
We were really, really close on this one. So I rated it a 2.24.
Wow.
Yeah, I think that's the closest that we've ever been.
Nice.
And here's what I'll say. I wrote it down. I said, if you're looking for a movie on a Friday night where you want to order pizza and you don't really care what's going on with the movie and you want to be on your phones but look up a little bit and say, oh, okay, there's robots running around some more and there's whatever's going on, and then go back to what you were doing, I think that this is the movie for you. It's good to say that you've seen it one time, so that way you could say that you've seen it at work or if somebody ever asked you that.
Especially because it's number one in Netflix right now specifically.
Yeah.
So like if people are talking
Watching
about it,
it,
at least
yeah.
you can talk about it.
Exactly. But I would say that would be the only time that you would ever need to see it again.
Yeah.
And I'm not trying to, if people really love it, more props to you. I'm very glad that you enjoyed it and maybe you want to watch it a bunch of times. For me, I would say it's one of those movies where I watch it once, grateful that I watch it so that I know that people are talking about it, number one on Netflix, but I would not watch it again.
No, I wouldn't either. And if you like any of the actors that are in the movie, any of them, I mean, because they're all great actors.
Right.
This is not going to do them any favors.
Millie Bobby Brown, I thought, did okay.
Right, but I mean, there's so many other things you could watch her in. Same with Chris Pratt. Same with Stanley Tucci.
Yeah.
Same with
Giancarlo Esposito. I completely agree. It just seems like one of those movies where Netflix is kind of ramping up to get into the summer and they've got some blockbusters coming out and they want people to get amped about things. Because remember Chris Pratt was in that movie where they had to go forward in time to fight the robots and they had to go back in time, and his daughter was really the girl that he fell in love with. Remember that weird one with Chris Pratt, and they like trained him for the army because the people from the future came back to the past because they were trying to send other people to the future to fight them. And so they were like putting them in these different places. But it was like a movie like that Netflix made. See, we watched it and you didn't even remember it.
No, I mean, I don't remember movies that I have seen multiple times.
That's not true. You know about Vacation Friends.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. So yeah, that's our review of The Electric State. Thank you so much for tuning in.
I thought you were going to say The Electric Slide.
I wasn't, because I wanted to say the movie correctly.
Oh.
But thank you guys so much for tuning in. Thanks for spending some time with us. We love having you here, and wherever you're listening and wherever you're at, hopefully you're having an awesome day.
Yes. Hopefully you're having an awesome day. If you want to email us or send us any recommendations or talk about your own reviews about the movies that we've talked about or other movies that you want us to see, you can email us at microsodspodcast@gmail.com. And if you really like this, please subscribe and leave a review for us.
That would be awesome. And even if you don't, either way, we're just grateful that you spent a little bit of time with us. Thank you again for tuning in today, and we'll see you next time on Microsodes.
We're back after watching the movie, The Electric State, and and hearing the synopsis. I think it's pretty accurate. Am I allowed to say that? Is that stupid? Should I not have said any of this?
No, you did a pretty good job. About the Electric State, it just sounds like so like random. But
It
I
really
love
is.
It. Yeah,
Okay.
I love it. So please continue.
Should I get into my review? You know what I just realized right now? I reviewed each category and I didn't give a score for literally any of them.
Well, luckily I'll have a lot of time to talk in between. So you didn't write a score for any of them?
No. I was too busy writing what I wanted to say and then I forgot the score.
Holy. Okay.
Okay, I'll let you go first then.
Okay.
Would you like me to start my review of Story?
Sure, I'd like you to.
I'm so sorry. Did I say something wrong?
You said I'd like to start my review of Story.
No, I said, would you like me to start my review with Story?
With Story?
Would you like me to start my review of Story?
Should we redo that again?
I'm Ashley, the movie novice, which means that I just haven't seen a lot of movies.
And I'm Bobby. I'm the resident cinephile, which just means that I've watched a ton of movies. People would not necessarily call me an expert.
I would.
Oh
my God. So that was just an earthquake. We are recording and we just were in an earthquake. Today
Shoot.
is Sunday, March 16th. That was really freaking scary. Before we get into our reviews, I have a disclaimer to tell everyone, and I didn't tell you anything about what I was going to say right now.
That is correct. I
So-
have no idea what you're about ready to say.
Yeah, so this is new for everyone. Please apologize for the past few episodes. My reviews
We apologize. We apologize.
We apologize for me?
You just said, please apologize.
Okay, please, I apologize. Please accept my apology. Over the past 4 episodes, my reviews are all over the place, and I keep mixing up whatever the direction and vision or
I'm not
visuals.
signing off on this. I'm not signing off on any of this.
Well, I think this episode will be a little more concise on my part. So
Okay, if this episode is more concise, then at the end of it, then we'll put something in to say, like, we're working on it, like, give us a break. But
Under
you're not allowed to.
construction.
You're not allowed to throw yourself under the bus. Absolutely not. I won't accept it.
Well, because your reviews are so good, and
I
mine
don't
are
care.
all over the place.
Who cares? That's what it's supposed to be. It's two people with differing viewpoints and people that haven't seen a lot of movies versus somebody that has. So I'm not letting you take that away from yourself or throw yourself under the bus or get swallowed up by an earthquake. I'm just not going to do it. So you can just go ahead
And count you all the way out.
and count me like a bunch of crows. Because that's the guy. Mr. Jones and me tell each other fairy tales.
I love it.
Counting crows.
Oh, thank you for explaining. I wasn't sure.
Yeah. I knew. I knew based upon the look in your eyeballs. You look
You
like
could
the
see it in my eyes.
Yeah, you look like the robot that was looking at me. Or the girl last night.
Oh, yes.
Timothy or Charles or Charlie or Chris. Chris? I guess is his
Exactly.
name. Okay. I'm not allowing you to put that in there. I'm just saying. I get 50
50%.
I get 50% and I only get to do one veto on something.
You can do a veto every time.
No. Only one was something that you say. But that one I don't agree with. Because you don't have to apologize for being you.
Okay, well, I'll put this at the end then, so
Cool.
everyone can see how cool you are.
Now,
I think you're incredibly cool. I mean,
I'm
that's
fine
also
in
why
that.
I married you. And I also am in love with you. And
Oh.
you're also my best friend.
Whoa.
Okay, well, I guess I should get back to the review now.
okay, ready?
Goodbye.